don't know if you can see over there, but there's a Nicolas Cage from Con Air, and that's very funny to me. Driving by, and I saw like all of that, and I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. So I thought I would pull over and check it out. That's 30 right there. So let's do 500 at, what is this? 45 millimeters, thereabouts. Never really find myself through this area of town. It's a little removed from the places I typically need to be. I figured while I'm out and about, I should probably shoot this because it appears as though they're like actively demolishing it. So it's unlikely that I'll be able to come back here anytime in the future. This is 80 millimeters, 1000, just in case you guys are curious. Yeah, like that, I don't know. There's something about that that I always think looks cool. I think this is an old, like, I don't know, some kind of manufacturing plant that they're tearing down. Looks like there were houses on property. Pretty bright and sunny out today. So we'll see how that plays into the qualities of the film. I'm assuming, I think it's safe to assume that it is Kodak film. And if that's the case, then it'll probably render fairly warm. Would be nice, I think, overall for the quality of day it is. I'm looking at these buildings here and the kind of coolness of the white as it's being reflected. There's like some blue hues in the shadow, but this lens, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is a shit lens. It's the 28 to 80 Solagore zoom, which, you know, Solagore and quality are not really synonymous with one another. So we're probably not looking at high quality images regardless, but beyond that, it looks to me through the viewfinder as though there's a bit of yellow tinting, I would say. I think that'll be a good shot though. I'm going for that shot right there. With that yellow tinting, that could play into some of the, you know, color profile of the film quite heavily, but we will kind of have to see. The only time I've shot with this lens previously was black and white film, which isn't evidently as affected by tints, especially color tints, as color film is. Obviously. It's fucking dumb. Depending on the type of black and white film that you're shooting with, oh look, got Holly. Depending on course of the black and white film that you're shooting with, some of it, the spectral sensitivity is picked up differently by different things. We really wanted to take, let's see, this shot here, you can kind of see. Something about the way that the building is kind of falling down. That's kind of what made me want to take a photo here. This is sort of, in a way, you know, categorizing history, because this building will not be here. And that's probably for the best, all things considered. That jug also looks kind of funny with like pants there. Ivy growing up the fence there. Let's see. 500 at 8, yeah, that's about right. The reason that I wanted to stop mainly was for that shot, but I'm not entirely fond of how it looks from across the street. I do kind of want to pop up there and shoot it more head on, because I feel like that's a better shot, and or at least through. There's no cameras or anything. So. Okay, I think that'll look pretty good. I got, this is pointy into my ear. So as you can see, kind of have this going on right there. That's the shot I was hoping for. I think I kind of nailed it. the digging equipment, I think, is fantastic. Still working out the kinks of these kind of videos, so bear with me. I think that's a little bit better. This way you can kind of see exactly what I'm shooting and you won't just see my face while I'm talking. This through here also. There's just, I don't know. The kind of melding of the organic and inorganic, you know, created, constructed world is a continuing fascination to me. And I think one of the things I like most about living in Oregon, or just anywhere that has, you know, nature, is that there's this kind of consistent erosion between the two. We see structures being overtaken by, you know, moss or by other kinds of growth. And it just seems to be like a battle of wills that nature continually wins, as it has been around for longer and will be around presumably for as long as we will be, if not longer. And I find that to be a very beautiful and helpful reminder, you know, to not fucking hell stress too much about the minor things in life, because life goes on. Nature goes on, and at the end of the day, whatever it is that you are dealing with in life, while it is important and shouldn't be overlooked, it's not going to, like, you know, define you unless you allow it to, if that makes sense. Trying to close focus on this there. See how that turns out. We have what appears to be some kind of like thistles going on here, which is pretty. And just the general field as a whole, this is quite nice, I'll be honest. This is not really the walk I had anticipated going on, but we're just kind of freewheeling it through a field. And like, look at this. I'm really not that far away from, like, I mean, there's a house there, obviously, and there's a fucking construction site over here, demolition site. But I'm not far from, you know, downtown Beaverton. It's maybe, I don't know, a little bit of a drive, 10-15 minutes tops with traffic. So just consider being out in the middle of a field like this, and barring the inconsistent road noise and construction sounds, not really able to perceive what it's like to be, like, you know, if you just look here, you'd think, oh, you know, I've clearly driven hours out of my way to the middle of nowhere. But really, this is just on the way to the post office, which is crazy. It's beautiful though, absolutely beautiful, quite lovely. I do have concerns though about how it's going to look on film, namely because my shot selection is ass, and I also suspect that the optics here are going to be a bit of a pitfall for me. The Soligor, as I stated previously, is not really renowned for quality, but it does appear to be quite nice. Like, I like having the option for the zoom range. The wide to the tight shot is kind of nice. If at the end of the day, you know, all of the images are kind of shaded with this unwelcomed hue or tinting, then what's really the point of any of this? Let's not talk too much about the negatives here. Let's talk instead about this, the camera that I'm shooting with. And I gotta be honest, I'm really excited for the opportunity to shoot with this again. The Contax RTS is this weird mixture in my mind of a really well done camera that in some ways is overdone. There are elements to this that I feel like are almost gimmicky, if that makes sense. Like it almost feels like a bit. Like the auto setting works fairly well from what I can tell, but stopping down, using the button here to get the meter reading as opposed to pressing it down here, which is in variance to every other 35mm SLR camera that I've shot with, you're able to partially depress on the shutter button and achieve like a idea of what the shutter speed's gonna be on automatic. But because the shutter button is the way it is here, you can't really half press. It's a delicate press. But I kind of like that, like the pressing of the shutter itself. Need some fucking WD-40 on that. The shutter button itself, though, is incredibly responsive. And beyond that, the Advance, it almost has like a industrial drill look to it in the way that it's set out. You'd think it'd be clunky, you'd think it would have this teething to it, but it is quite smooth. There's a mechanical component to it that provides a bit of feedback, but ultimately it is a nice, consistent pull. It has a good feel. I'm going for these shots of the blackberry bramble and the orange. Red and green are complementary colors, so I assume orange and green will be similar. We'll see. The other reason I'm going for more of the orange is because I want to see how that's registered on the film itself, what the depth of that color looks like, and we'll see about these blackberries as well. There's these little glints of light that are coming off of it that I think will appear very lovely. But going back to the camera, due to a few of the elements of it, one, of course, being the leather, most obviously, there is what I can only describe as a luxury quality to it, a cushiness, a plush element. Now, as I've been told, plush has been kind of adopted to some degree by the wealthy community. And I feel like it really finds its footing in the Contax brand as a whole, with the S2, and more significantly, with the RTS here. Fundamental quality of life improvements to the camera as it stands, with the plushness of the leather, with the smoothness of the Advance, the responsiveness of the shutter, the positioning of your shutter speed dial for quicker selection with your other thumb. So many of these come into play that aren't really featured on other SLR systems and can thus be viewed as somewhat of an improvement on the functionality of the SLR. This is different, and some could argue at times it is better. I think there's certain elements to this that I find to be easier to use, but I also think wholesale, it's just kind of a weird camera that is desperately trying to carve out a niche for itself. And I think being that this is the first RTS of many, I think there's a grand total of 3 in the RTS lineup, I would say that it did an effective job of carving out that niche. The other ones lose me a little bit. This still retains some of that fundamental mechanical component that I find alluring to analog photography as a whole. And while this is what I would say a soft and cushy camera, it does hold on to some of that like mechanical robustness. It does have that responsiveness to the advance lever in a way that I don't know if the other ones do, because I think that they are motorized. I think it's motorized systems. And if that's the case, that is what I would say is an improvement for the time, but I think it is a detriment in the modern era, where a lot of photographers, myself included, prefer film because of its more organic qualities. And I believe that's the end of my roll here. Yep. And I might have just double exposed that last shot, which sucks because I actually kind of like the way that they looked. It was a shot of that over there, and then a shot of that right there. Something about that wooden fencing with the ivy growing through it, I just find to be a compelling contrast. And I'll be honest, the lighting is not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now I know this video was supposed to be predominantly about shooting the yes exclamation point star Supreme 200 film. I don't have as much juice to talk about because I've not seen the results, but what I have seen and what I've been doing is shooting with this camera. And the results of that I feel like are what we're really able to discuss before we get the film developed. And so I believe that the RTS as a whole serves many masters. It is not only a function of the Contax and Yashica melding, the merging of German and Japanese engineering, the addition to car design to film photography, but it also serves as an element of class, of stylistic development, of quality that you otherwise wouldn't see. A lot of people consider an SLR, they're mainly looking at it from the lens and the guise of the K1000s, the AE1s, the beginners, but really nothing to turn the head of somebody who prefers the finer things in life. But I think with the Contax RTS, you get all of those things. You get this art house quality to it, this hipster selection for a fantastic film camera. I think what the RTS truly does for me is it makes me think. It makes me ponder. I'm always kind of jogging my mind as to how I really feel about this in ways that I'm not with other camera systems. With the K1000, with the AE1s, with ME Supers even, like what can be said about these cameras that hasn't already been said by myself or by others on this platform or elsewhere? But with the RTS, there's been so little said about it. And even the things that have been said and written barely seem to scratch the surface about the true elements of this design. We can do a historical recap of it. We can talk about some of the flares, but after you've really shot with it, it does make you feel as though you owe it another chance. You owe it another thought. You owe it more consideration than you might have given it to begin with. And that's something that I really admire about the system as a whole. I kind of want to keep coming back to it in ways that I don't feel with the S2, in ways that I don't feel with certain other cameras out there like the Nikon F2, in ways that I don't feel with other models in general, but those predominantly. Yeah, that's the RTS for now. We'll get these photos developed and then I'll talk about the results after the fact. But I hope you enjoyed this little walkabout. Thank you for partaking, and I will catch you later.